if you need some positive cruise news, this is it. Cruising has started to sail again, and I think that we might be seeing the light. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website and blog lifewellcruised.com, and today what I'm going to be talking about is some really positive news. I think that we're actually in the beginning of the end. Yes, we actually saw 2 cruise ships sail successfully this past week. Now, this was in Taiwan and this was in Germany, so it was not in North America, but they still were very successful sailings and were able to see how things went for passengers on board. So I am going to be going through that with you in this video, really examining all of the details so we can know for ourselves what we can expect going forward. And as well, I'm going to be sharing with you some really positive news about a cruise port, several cruise ports that are getting ready to welcome cruise ships. So good news all around, I think, in this video. Now, if you do like this video, if you think it's helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give it a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And of course, please consider subscribing to the channel. So let's get started. So in this video, I'm going to be focusing on the experience on Mein Schiff 2, which is part of TUI Cruises. And that is a joint venture with Royal Caribbean. And basically that's a cruise ship, a cruise line that runs in the German market. Now, a little bit of information about Mein Schiff 2. This cruise ship has a capacity normally of 2,900 passengers on board. It is an informal but still upscale experience. We're on the cruise ship. It's pretty much an all-inclusive experience with most food, drinks, and gratuities included on the cruise ship. So firstly, let's talk about this sailing. This was a 3-day cruise leaving from Hamburg, Germany, and it was basically a cruise to nowhere, so there were no ports. It sailed with only 1,200 passengers. Now, the cruise ship does have a capacity of 2,900. I've seen reports that they were sailing with 60% capacity, but that math just doesn't really add up. So perhaps the 2,900 passenger capacity is with 3rd and 4th passengers. In any case, they were sailing with only 1,200 passengers. Now you can see in the videos, and what I'll do is I'll leave some videos below. You can actually see that the cruise ship looks very spacious. Chairs, even like on the pool deck, are really spaced apart, and it looks spacious, but not isolating. So very, very nice. So in terms of experience on the cruise ship, let's talk about the buffet. Now the buffet looked like we would think, and like we've heard, it is not a self-service buffet anymore, or at this point, it is a full-service buffet, but there's a little bit more to that experience. So as you were walking in to the buffet area, there's a line of hand washing stations, so very, very nice. And of course, there are hand sanitizers as well. When guests are getting their food, there's so much space because of the reduced capacity, of course, that nobody was close by to one another. And the crew was actually serving everybody their food into their plates and covering the plates as well. So guests did have their plates with the plastic coverings. And something else that I noticed is that all of the utensils were placed in single-use packages, sort of like paper type of packages covering all of the silverware. So that was quite nice as well. And then we can see how that would be hygienic. Now, importantly for cruise passengers is that the buffet looked fabulous. All of the food looked plentiful. It looked really, really appetizing. I definitely could see myself sailing like that without a problem. Now, the restaurant or the dining room, something interesting that they had was rather than ordering from a traditional menu, they actually had a bit of a code that you could kind of scan your phone over, and then it would bring up your menu and you could order like from your phone. But they also had traditional menus as well. The food, by the way, also looked very fabulous. The pool deck. Now, something I should mention is what I did to research this video is I actually watched several vlogs to see what this was like, and I read a few articles as well. So I will leave you some extra information below in case you're interested in seeing that for yourself. So the pool deck, I was actually quite impressed with how beautiful the pool deck was on this ship, and the groupings of chairs, I could see that work really, really well, especially for a reduced capacity, of course. But people were swimming in the pool and it was spacious. That was not a problem. They even had exercise classes going on in the pool with people, of course, spaced out. Now, in terms of health, hygiene, and cleanliness, of course, that is really, really important on board the cruise ship, and it looked like everything was done very well. So to begin with, the cruise passengers did have to fill out a health declaration form at embarkation. Things were really, really spaced out, by the way, at embarkation time. And there were hand sanitizers placed everywhere. There were thermal scans for temperature taking, and that continued on board the cruise ship as well. So every day people would go to a temperature scanner, and it was a non-intrusive, sort of like a stand with a device, and that would scan everybody's temperature. So that happened daily on board. In terms of cabins, only balcony cabins or suites, so basically cabins where you could access fresh air, were used on this sailing. And what they will be doing for the time being is they'll actually be rotating cabins or alternating cabins. So in other words, people that are using that cabin on this voyage, the next voyage, that cabin won't be used. Time will be allowed so that they can do a deep cleaning of every cabin. And of course, also the crew are cleaning meticulously the cruise ship and the cruise cabins during the cruise itself and in between. So while guests usually don't see the medical center from what I saw in the footage is very modern, looks extremely ready and prepared. They do have testing on board if necessary, and they have a new officer called the infection control officer, and it really looks like they've done a lot of crew training and they are prepared should something arise. Now, hopefully as guests, we never see that area, but it is good to know. So the facilities on the ship, I have to say, this ship just looks gorgeous. And really things look like they're running very well. But in terms of for guests, you can go to the gym. There are some restrictions. So it does have to be 20 people at a time, and it is first come, first serve. The kids club can also be used by 10 children at a time, and any equipment and toys would have to be used on a rotation basis so it can be cleaned. Now, in terms of the entertainment on the ship, the entertainment is going on. So in the evening time, when you would have a show, what they simply had people do is sit with intervals of chairs in between them. And of course, because they are at such a reduced capacity, this really didn't look like an issue. The activities during the daytime that were going on were sports activities, bingo. There really was a full planner of activities like a regular cruise. And now for one of the biggest concerns that a lot of us probably have is, do we have to wear masks on a cruise, and did they wear masks on a cruise? So they were wearing masks on a cruise, but I actually found that the experience, to look at it, seemed very livable to me. So if we'll do the same thing, I personally think that I really could live with this. So people are wearing masks at embarkation, of course. And by the way, crew are wearing masks really, I think pretty much all the time, masks or visors or both. But in terms of passengers are really wearing the masks when they cannot be, about 6 feet apart. So at embarkation, when you go to guest services, then passengers are wearing a mask. But everywhere that passengers would be eating and drinking, they're really not wearing masks. In the hallways, passengers are asked to wear masks because, of course, it's a more confining space. But in terms of the public areas, it looks like tables and chairs were really very well spaced apart so that people were never very close congregating together. And it seems that the rule, at least on this cruise ship, was that you'd have to wear a mask if you could not really socially distance. And I saw some footage of some different activities that were taking place even on the inside of the cruise ship, and people were very far apart and they were not wearing masks. And other times they were wearing masks. So I think it really does depend. On the pool deck, people were not wearing masks. So I think if that is a concern, then I think probably we could have that alleviated, which is good news. The elevators. Now, a lot of us have wondered, how are the elevators going to work? So the elevators were actually divided up sort of like with tape in the middle. Perhaps it wasn't tape, but they're divided up into 4 spaces, and everybody is just asked to stay within their space, their quarter of the elevator. And you know what, like if we think about office buildings, that is pretty much how they're working. So that makes a lot of sense that they're simply doing that. And finally, the muster drill. Now, we do know that recently Royal Caribbean came out with their new program that is called eMuster, which is going to be a tech version of the muster drill. So I'm hoping that all cruise lines are going to do this, because it's going to get rid of that traditional muster drill that is not the most enjoyable part of the cruise, but of course, very, very important. But in this case, what I was able to see from the footage in the vlogs is that they did have a traditional muster drill, however, at a muster station. However, I guess probably because there were so few passengers on board, everything was very spacious, and they seem to have indicated where passengers should stand so that nobody was close together during this time. So all in all, what I saw is what looked like a really nice cruise. People seemed like they really enjoyed themselves. And honestly, if I had that cruise ship in my area, I would probably go on it. It was so beautiful. I was quite impressed and happy to actually look at it. But even better than this is that more cruises are to come. We have the Ida Perla that will be sailing soon. And again, I apologize for my mispronunciation of words that are in a different language than mine. But we have that cruise ship that is due to sail on August 5th, also from Hamburg, and other cruises are due to sail from other cruise ports in Europe. So this is really good news. We even had the other cruise ship that's already sailed, which is called the Explorer Dream, if I'm not mistaken, by Genting Cruises, and that was in Taiwan, and they actually had cruise port stops. So fabulous. But what I did want to let you know is some really good news, because of course this cruise that left from Hamburg, it didn't go to any cruise ports, and it was a great start. So I'm very, very happy with that. But cruise ports, we all want to travel to cruise ports. So finally we have the Minister of Tourism in Greece, who has said that as of August 1st, they are ready to welcome cruise ships back to several ports in Greece. And Greece is beautiful. I know that I loved my Mediterranean cruise, and I look forward to getting back to Greece again and doing a Greek Isles cruise in the future. So they do have some regulations. They're basically following Greece. They've said the guidelines from the EU Healthy Sailing Guide, I think it's called, and they're basically following that with some adaptations they have said and some regulations from the Greek authorities. And what they're asking cruise lines to do is also kind of to work with them on a plan. And for instance, some of the things that they've asked cruise lines for is that they do have a contingency plan to repatriate crew and guests if the need arises. So I think that this is positive news, though, going forward. We're seeing cruises that are starting to sail, and we're seeing cruise ports that, of course, as long as the conditions remain good, remain like this, that will be opening up. So what do you think? Do you see this as the light at the end of the tunnel? And I know in North America that we're not there yet, but we will be at some point. So let me know what you think. And if you did like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And of course, please consider subscribing to the channel with your notification bell on. Now, please let me know what you think in the comments below, and happy future cruising.